Today we're talking about DeSean, the Eagles, and gangs. Welcome to another episode of Beyond the Locker Room. I'm your host, Brian Toe, and today we're going to discuss I had two topics in mind. I was going to go Pacers, but I think the DeSean Jackson story to me is kind of giving me a lot more, it's getting me a little more worked up, let's put it that way. I think just seeing what's going on with it. I mean, I'll say this. I mean, if you don't know what's going on with DeSean Jackson, he's become a free agent. He's a wide receiver, formerly a wide receiver for the Philadelphia Eagles. Had a career season, I believe he had 80 or 80 plus catches. I mean, he had a ton of yardage that came with it. And I think it seemed as if about a week or so ago, the Eagles were trying to trade him because they couldn't figure out a deal. It looked like it was the case, and they were going to move him. But then it seemed like the trade possibilities seemed to be kind of waning. And all of a sudden you heard stories coming out about he had ties and gang affiliations to his background. Now and then he was cut by the Eagles, subsequently cut by the Eagles. And since then he's been picked up by the Washington Redskins with I think a 3-year, $24 million contract possibly. So he's living well. So I'm not losing that much sleep for him. But I think overall, I think just the way how things went down. To me, something seems a little funny in the milk with the whole thing because it seems like the Eagles aren't saying anything, but it seems that the story was just leaked out. Even though it's strange to say it's been leaked out, even though there's been discussions and reports about investigations happening to friends or associates of his that are in murder investigations, and it seems like the police have talked to him about it. Not that he had anything to do with it, so I want to make that clear, but it's not like it was being a hidden story from a criminal standpoint. From people reporting it, but it seems as if now all of a sudden it's the timing of when the story's made its way to the sports media that seems a little fishy. And I think it comes down to a point now. I guess people are debating. Do you judge every book by its cover type of mentality where it's like, okay, he came from the streets of Compton, California. And he has a lot of friends in this case, or associates that he known from back in the day and back at his place, his neighbor, in his hood. And he's at the point where he thinks he's like, those are the guys that were with me when no one cared about me, and those are the guys I'm sticking with me. A bit of an Allen Iverson situation in that sense. And you can have pros and cons if it's good to have those guys around you or not. And there's cons obviously to that because hey, those guys unfortunately can bring you down in some circumstances, but there's the other way to look at the coin as well too, showing that he has some loyalty to the guys that were with him when no one else were with him. And it's like now it's easy to say sitting in comfort for a lot of us to say, hey, you should just dump those guys. But I think he's decided to make those decisions. I think what just troubles me is the timing of when it came out, how it's kind of cast aspersions on him, and it's kind of and in a way it could really hurt his career in a sense. He was fortunate enough that he was able to squash a lot of it, and I think he had a lot of pushback from some fellow players in the league who probably are in the same situation, just that their story hasn't come out or any news about it. I mean, they've all a lot of them come from a lot of poor backgrounds or troubled neighborhoods maybe, and they're saying like, listen, man, it could be any one of them in this case if in this case if DeSean Jackson's going to be put to this type of test. Now I understand we're in a world that's post Aaron Hernandez, and therefore everyone's watching their back. But the NFL is a cold place, and listen, they'll cut a dude and use any excuse they need to go and cut somebody. I mean, I think that my whole thing is that if the Eagles didn't do it, so be it. But if they did leak it, I mean, I think it would be really shameful because if they didn't want Jackson around because he's a malcontent or he's a troublemaker in the locker room, fine, then cut him and move on with it. But if they did leak the story, it really is kind of like a really lowball deal. Anyhow, we'll be interested to see what happens moving forward because I can't wait for that first game in Washington, Philadelphia. It's always an interesting and exciting rivalry. Just noticed I'm wearing Eagles green today. But we'll see how it all plays out and in the coming months. But I just wanted to kind of just have a little take on it. Oh, by the way, Richard Sermon had a really great article at MMQB. So I'll post that link below so you can take his take on it. Obviously, he grew up with DeSean Jackson in Compton. He has a really interesting take coming from, I guess, the other side of things about, growing up in that in those circumstances and what it is to kind of, stay tight with the guys back home. So take a look at it. It comes from a different perspective. Some of you may not agree with it. Some of you may agree with it. So, but I think it is a perspective that warrants a read and a review of it. So that's about it for me. Short, sweet, out the way. Next week we'll probably get in some NBA talk unless something crazy happens from in the next week or so. But we're getting close to the playoffs in this case, and we're gonna have a little bit of NBA playoff preview. So look forward to that. Look to that coming soon. So I'll talk to you later. Peace.